那接下来呢，就让我们欢迎欧洲行销联盟副主席以及南威尔斯商业及社会学院教授 Professor Jonathan Deacon 带来行销的专题演讲。Let's welcome Professor Deacon.
Okay, good. Hello. Okay, so this might not be what you're normally used to, and I'm not going to say hello to these people on the front row because they've had enough already. I'm going to say hello to the very important people in the room, and that's you. You run businesses, you start businesses, you make the world go round, and you are to be celebrated. You are very, very important. But maybe parts of what you do could be improved. So we'll have a look at that in the next half hour or so. There are a couple of people that I just need to say hello to, and they're up there. Is everything okay? Good. Because I have a tendency to wander about, both physically and in what I intend to say, my interpreters are going to have quite a job on their hands, and so I have to keep them on side. Otherwise, they will tell you a presentation that I'm not talking about, won't they? That's what they'll do. Okay, this is me. Professor of Marketing, big old university in the UK. I'm Global Vice Chair of 2 professional bodies, one which is global, the other one which is European. What do I know about marketing in a firm like yours? That's what you're asking. What does he know about marketing? When I was 6 years old, about this big, I started working in the family business, working behind the counter on a Saturday, getting to know people, getting to know how to make a sale, enjoying making a sale. I went on to found my first business when I was 17 years old, which I sold in my early 20s. I created a second business, which I sold to my management team in my early 30s. So from startup to growth to sale, companies ranging up to several £1 million turnover, I've kind of been there and done it. So I hope I can pass a little bit of that expertise, thinking, experience on to you today. So I did end up in a university because I think it's important that universities teach the real stuff about business, and that's what I do. There we are, that's me. Great photo. I love that photo. It's my favorite one. I'm going to tell you about 5 big things which you perhaps need to know about global marketing in the year 2018. I could have chosen 25 different things because there's quite a lot out there that we need to know. So I'm just going to fix on 5. What I'm going to tell you about are things that you probably already know something about, but maybe my talk today will just help you think about those things, maybe action a few of those things. I don't have any answers for you. Every talk that I give, and I talk to business audiences and government audiences around the world, when I talk to audiences like this, I promise that I don't have any answers for you. But I will leave you with a lot of questions. And I want you to take those questions home. And tomorrow morning or even tonight, I want you to sit down and start thinking about an answer to those questions. And if you think about those questions and you come up with an answer, maybe your business will improve a bit. That's the hope. Okay, so 5 big things that you probably need to know about marketing. Number 1. What we got for number 1? Well, number 1 is all about creativity. You need to be creative. I know what you're thinking. I can't draw. How can I be creative if I can't draw? I can't draw pictures. So we're going to have a little game of drawing a picture. In your packs, I have been told, you have pens and paper. So put your iPads to one side and all your technical stuff. Get your pen and paper out, because I want you to do me a favor. What I'd like you to do Is there an equivalent word to favor in Chinese? Yeah, there is. Okay, that's good. Okay, so have you got your pens and paper out? Oh, come on. Have you got your pens and paper out? Good. Okay, I want you to draw for me, please. Not with a pen like that. With a pen like that. Okay, I want you to draw. I want you to draw me an apple, please. I want you to draw me an apple. Can you do that? Draw me an apple. Hands up when you've finished your apple. Okay, a couple of people, hands up. This isn't a test, but I want you to show me your apple. Where's your apple? Can I wander around up here? Let's have a look. Where's your apple? There it is. That's good. There's an apple there. There's an apple there. There's an apple. Where we have an apple? No, we've got some writing. Apple. Show it to the people around you, please. We'll come back to the apple in just 2 moments. Bill Bernbach said this in 1963, I think it was. It may well be that creativity is the last unfair advantage we're legally allowed to take over our competitors. Creativity is really important to marketers and to business. The problem is with creativity is that not everybody is particularly creative. Where's my... There it is. Okay. When I looked around just a moment ago at apples, what I found was that most people had copied the one that I had put on the board. I didn't ask you to copy the one on the board. I asked you to draw an apple. So you can see how simple it is and how easy it is to fall into a bad habit of copying what everybody else does. And we do that in business. We do it at our cost because the stuff that we did yesterday isn't going to necessarily protect us tomorrow. We have to continually think differently. If we were doing this in a bit more time, I'd ask you at the end of the session to redraw the apple. And I would guess that I would get lots and lots of different types of pictures, some of which would never represent an apple. But that would be a good thing because you're then beginning to think creatively. So thinking creatively. Yesterday's home runs don't win today's games. We've got to be brave. We've got to be brave about our creativity. We've got to be thinking the stuff that we used to do, what could we learn from that, from those practices, from that marketing that we did? What could we learn from that that we could take forward? We've also got to be brave about the future. Just because something worked in the past, there's no guarantee it's going to work in the future. So we have to be creative about what we do. I'll give you some illustrations as we go through the next 20 or so minutes. Technology, society, business models are evolving at an unprecedented pace. You bet they are. Remember when the biggest hotel group in the world owned hotels? Biggest hotel group in the world right now doesn't own a hotel. It's called Airbnb. Remember when taxi cab companies had to have and own taxi cabs? The biggest transportation company in the world right now doesn't own a taxi cab. They're called Uber. Those business models are rapidly changing. So what we thought was good for us may not necessarily survive into the future. Society is changing too, isn't it? Society is changing. I noticed that there's a formality about the society here in Taiwan. But I've also noticed amongst the audience a lot of younger people who are not necessarily playing that formal game. Ties have gone out of the window. Jeans are okay to wear to work. Society is changing. And it's changing rapidly in the West. I think many of your market spaces that are absolutely right for your development in the West, they're there. But I think you need to really get a grip on just how quickly and how much change has taken place in society in the West. However, that's global too, isn't it? Society has changed globally. There are folks in the room that probably share more similarities with a person of their own age in Germany, London, in New York, than they do potentially with their parents or their grandparents. So that aspect of society has changed. Social media has allowed us to communicate globally and quickly, and it has changed society. Organizations, however, continue to use yesterday's thinking to approach the problems of tomorrow. You've got to be brave. You've got to be brave. How can we then, as marketers, excuse me, how can we as marketers look at the future in a brave way? Well, there are three components for maximum impact. We've got creativity, thinking. Do you have the phrase in Chinese, thinking outside the box? Yeah. So thinking outside the box, being creative, doing different, being different, changing the business models. We've got to be creative. We've got to be creative based on excellence of data. Now that's not hard data that you may immediately think of. What I think of when I think of data in a marketing sense, I'm thinking about intimately understanding customers' needs, almost before they know it. And media, how do we communicate? How do we communicate? So we're going to look at some strategy, how we get to know customers, and we're going to look at how we communicate with customers. Bill Bernbach again. 100 years from now, the idea is still going to be more important than all of the technology in the world. Without an idea, you've got nothing to be creative with, you've got nothing to communicate, you haven't got a sale. Point number 2, do one thing well. It's my mantra when I'm talking to businesses, and I work with businesses through the university, and we consult into businesses. It's one thing that we talk about frequently: relevancy and doing one thing well. You have to be relevant to your audience. And in order to be relevant, doing one thing well really works. So think about your business. What do you do? What's the one thing that you do really well? If you were to stop somebody in the high street, outside the store, outside 101 downstairs, if you were to stop them and say, what do you know of this company? What's the one thing that they're going to say to you? Do they know what you do well? In order to answer that, you have to understand a bit about what matters to the customer. It's not anymore about return on investment, it's about return on involvement. We need to involve customers in what we do. Sometimes with really, really brave audiences, I talk about the fact that customers don't exist anymore. They don't exist anymore. Not like we think they exist. They don't exist anymore. They've disappeared. They've gone away. They're now partners with us. We come together to create solutions, and we use what we have in the business to facilitate that answer. So it's about return on involvement. We need to get people involved in our business. We used to call them customers. It's not about sales anymore. It's about building a value-based relationship. So, return on involvement. Here's the illustration. Because I came over a couple of days ago and I wanted to present myself perhaps in a rather formal way, I chose to wear one of my blue suits. I could have, though, as I tend to do if I'm back home in the UK and back in Wales where I come from, I'd wear my Hyatt denim jeans. You will have never heard of the brand Hyatt. Unlikely. Got to be careful when I say that because there might be somebody in the room that does know Hyatt jeans. They do one thing well. They make denim jeans. That's all they do. They make denim jeans. Tell you the story behind Hyatt denim. There's a little town in the very west of Wales where I come from. Wales is part of the UK. We're nearer to Ireland than we are to London. And there's this little town, and 20 years ago, it used to make 40,000 pairs of jeans every week. And they were made for those big high street stores that were a feature of high streets across Europe. And gradually, the market went away. Because those jeans, those 40,000 pairs of jeans, were selling for around £10 sterling a pair. 40,000 pairs of jeans, £10 sterling a pair. I'm not quite sure what that is in Taiwanese new dollars. Perhaps my interpreters will work it out. Okay, but 500, yeah? Okay. The market went away. People started purchasing products elsewhere. What did the companies do? They lowered the price. What happened then? They went out of business. They ceased. And this little town that were making all of these pairs of jeans suddenly lost its largest employer. Several years later, along came a friend of mine by the name of David Hyatt, and he had a passion to get the town working again. So he said, what we're going to do, we're going to make denim jeans like nobody's ever made denim jeans before. We're going to take the denim jean and we're going to take it apart, and every component of that pair of jeans is going to be made in the best possible way out of the best possible materials. So when I buy my jeans from them, I usually buy jeans which have got a denim fabric, which is a one-off weave or a very special weave. I have a rivet on my jeans which is red. When you go to the factory, you can go to the storeroom and there's a little box of rivets with my name on them, and when I order a pair of jeans, that red rivet goes on my pocket in a particular place on my jeans. The fabric is the best. The rivets are the best rivets that you can get. The little leather patch on the back where you put your belt through is the best quality leather you can find. My pairs of jeans are made exclusively by one person. One person stitches everything on the pair of jeans. On the inside of the right pocket, that pair of jeans is signed by the person that made them. For the lifetime of those jeans, if anything goes wrong, I pick up the phone, I speak to the person that's made my jeans, and I can send them back and they repair them. The really interesting thing about what Hyatt do is that they understand intimately who's going to buy a pair of jeans like this. They sell them to people in the creative industries, so TV producers, film producers, that kind of audience. They sell them to the people in the music industry. They sell them to people in the creative industries, designers, marketeurs. They know that's who their audience is. They speak to that audience with a voice that, as a marketer, I understand. They don't make 40,000 pairs of jeans anymore. They make probably around about 400 pairs of jeans. They employ quite a few people. But those jeans are now priced, because the value has increased, they're now priced at between £200 and £300 per pair. What's that? A lot. Yeah. But for somebody like me, I don't want to wear a pair of Lee jeans or Wrangler jeans. Everybody wears those. I want a pair of Hyatt denim jeans. But it proves the point. Doing one thing well and understanding the audience that will appreciate the value that you're putting into that works. Doing one thing well. You will be sent this slide deck, I believe. So you don't need to take notes of this, but that is a brilliant book. That tells you how you can communicate to a specific target market in an authentic voice that will improve what you do. Talking is only one thing though, isn't it? Listening is the other half of the story. And that's where we get our data piece from. How do we understand that? How do we understand what people want? Come to that in a minute. So number 3. This is my elder brother, Joseph. Only joking. Though he does look a bit like that. Hope he's not watching live streaming. Third big thing I want to tell you about, so number 1, creativity. Number 2, do one thing well. Number 3, customers don't exist anymore. Sorry to break that news to you. Again, they don't exist anymore. So what does exist? Tribes exist. We're all members of tribes. We all belong to many tribes actually. I belong to a tribe of marketing people. My tribe like nice little things like denim jeans that are made to measure with our own little buttons on them. You belong to all sorts of different tribes. There's an exercise that you need to do when you get home tonight or tomorrow is to think about what tribe you belong to, what interests you. So let's talk about what a tribe is. So here's the archetypal tribal picture. This is a Maori, this is a Kiwi tribal member. Tribal member belongs to a something, belongs to a group of people. That group of people share certain things. They share cultural norms. They share a language, perhaps. They share tradition. They share emotion. The really smart companies that I deal with understand that customers no longer exist, but tribes exist, and tribes work off emotion, not price, not where something is made. They work off emotion. It's very interesting because in the last couple of days, I've touched base with a tribe that I belong to. I've ridden competitively mountain bike cross-country races for the last 20 odd years. And I ride Giant. And Giant has its own tribe. People who own Giant bikes have a language. We talk about trance. We talk about what group set we've got. We talk about whether or not we're running Kenda tires or Continental tires. We belong to a tribe. We talk about whether carbon fiber is better than aluminium. We meet in particular places. Sunday mornings across the UK, we have trail parks where people take their bikes and ride them downhill or cross country, in my case. I'm too old for downhill now, so my sons tell me. It's the wickedness of young people who think they know it all, actually. So, we all belong to tribes. In the past, we might have attempted to outspend the competition. Today, we need to outsmart the competition, and we can use tribes to do that because we don't need to spend a lot of money. All we need to do is understand the tribe that we are servicing, that we have a relationship with. Because if you get that right, that tribe will do all of the stuff that we used to spend money for. They will tell other people how good we are. They will tell other people where we can get our product or our service. I've just told you about Hyatt Denim. Somebody in the room might buy a pair. I've done the job for Hyatt Denim really quite well, I think. So a tribe is defined as a network of heterogeneous persons. That's people that have got more difference than similarity, but the similarity that they have is really quite strong. So they're heterogeneous in terms of gender, income, age, and so on. They're not all 18 to 24-year-old males. They're not 35 to 45-year-old females. They can be anybody, anywhere, at any time, but they share a passion or an emotion. Do you want to know another tribe? Big tribe. I've seen it here in Taipei. Some people in the audience belong to this tribe, I'm sure. They're the tribe that buy Apple products. Have you seen them? They go to the Apple temple. And they go in. And this, to me, it's concrete. There's nothing in there. But they go in and they go, oh, praise be to Apple. I must have the latest Apple product. Really smart. Because if you think about it, I was in Zurich in Switzerland about 2 weeks ago, giving a talk to some people. And we were talking about how Apple have reinvented the watch for young people. Got to think about that. All those young people brought up on Apple, must have an Apple, go to the Apple store. Oh, lovely Apple things. They got an iPhone 10. It's lovely. Now, most people, up until just recently, young people didn't have a watch because they'd have an iPhone. They go, oh yeah, it's 10 past 2. It's 20 to 9. Oh, it's time for my tea. My children, I have 4 children, they all left home, but they all come back for dinner time. Don't know why they do that. So they come in and say, oh, it's dinner time, Dad. What have you got for us? I said, nothing. You have your own houses. Go and cook your own food. Anyway, so they have watches. So I wander off occasionally, as I've said. So they have their telephones. And Apple introduced the Apple Watch. And all of the Swiss watchmakers who were having their sales going through the floor because nobody was buying a watch anymore went, why couldn't we do that? It's because Apple have a tribe of people that will buy Apple things because they share an emotion or a passion in Apple stuff. I don't understand it because I'm not part of that tribe. So Apple don't need to communicate to me. I have no interest. But they communicate really well to the people that do have an interest in it. So there's a shared passion or emotion. A tribe is capable of collective action. Its members are not simple consumers. They just don't take stuff that we offer them. They are also advocates. They tell other people about what we're doing. And they do it better than we can. And I tell you why they do it better than we can, because their voice is authentic. If I tell Walter here that I'm the best academic in my school, he's going to turn to me and say, well, you would say that, wouldn't you? Because you have a vested interest. If, though, Stephen spoke to Walter and said, that Jonathan, he's the top academic they've got in their school, which one of those conversations is going to have more credence and credibility? It's the one coming from somebody that's trusted and has an authentic voice. Being part of a tribe. Think about who your tribe is. What is the shared emotion that they have? If we look at a brand, because a lot of people that I speak to say, well, that's my brand, isn't it? My tribe. No, it's not. It's a different thing. Because a brand is formed around supporting a particular community. So brands are explicitly commercial. Tribes aren't. And we have to be brave about that, because sometimes we have to hand over a lot of our communication to the tribe, whether we like it or not. Brands are about relationship between the brand and the consumer. Tribes are not. Tribes are about the relationship between the consumers. Every tribe has a very distinct model and pattern, by the way. I can use my drawing board again for this. In the middle, you have your hardcore members. These are people that really love this brand. They're the people that go to the Apple store and just think that concrete and whatever else they do in there is good. Then you have your softcore members. These are people that maybe have a few Apple products, but they don't have everything, and they don't buy the latest when it comes out. These people here are not the people that are going to queue around the block. These people will camp outside for weeks on end so that they can get the latest product exactly midnight. Just think about how Apple do that, by the way. They've turned sales into theater, into entertainment, into an event. It's like going to a rock concert. And out here, we have our wannabes. These are people like me that have Panasonic and other phones, Samsung phones. Maybe we could move in here. So what happens is that this hardcore group communicate out all of the emotion, all of the good things that are going on in the organization to the softcore and the wannabe group. All we need to do is work out who the hardcore members are. And we can do that by getting really close and understanding that group of people. There's some slides there you can look at when you get the slide pack, because I'm going to run out of time otherwise. Number 4. Yeah. How many apps have you got on your telephone? Who's got, hands up, who's got more than 20 apps on their telephone? Who's got more than 10 apps on their telephone? Yeah? Do you know how many you use on a regular basis? 3. News, bank, and something else, probably. That's what you use. But the scarce resource in today's world isn't finance, isn't the ability to get your hands on something. The scarcest resource that we have as businesses and as marketers is mind space. Getting inside this very, very cluttered mind of consumers. Because they have all those apps going on, they're bombarded with communication. Young people today are doing 2, 3, 4 things simultaneously, watching the TV, scanning their phone, playing a game, all sorts of stuff. So mind space is really difficult to get hold of. How are we going to do that? We want to be creative. We want to do something well. We're going to do one thing well. We understand our tribe. How do we get inside the mind of those tribal members then? How are we going to do that? Once upon a time, we used to have this monologue. The brand would talk. It would do those adverts. In fact, turn on the TV tonight. I've been watching some local TV over the last couple of days, and it's all monologue. It's all talking at me. It's not saying, well, come and take a look at this. You might be interested in this. It's saying, no, you need to buy this. It's good. Buy it. Buy it now. No, buy it. Buy more of it now. You know, it's all of that kind of monologue stuff. Today, tomorrow, we have to have a conversation with people. We have to have a conversation. And this is where technology gets in the way. And we saw it this year in the competition. Too many companies just taking the richness that is things like social media and the many social media platforms and applying a monologue to them rather than having a dialogue. Those platforms are two-way, not one-way. My machine has stopped working now. There we are. Seth Godin, you may have heard of him. Great statement from him. Marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but it's the stories that you tell. So how are we going to make our communication valued by that hardcore member of our tribe? Well, we've got to create a story. We all have stories. Remember my story about my denim jean company, Hyatt Denim in Wales? You all have stories. Your companies have stories, and I bet they're really interesting. And how often do you tell them? Next to never. That's how often you tell them. Because you just don't think that's important. It's important if you're trying to create a passion around your company, your brand, your products, your services. So maybe you need to start thinking about your brand story. Tonight when you get home, start writing your brand story. My mum, my late mum, my dear late mum, started the family business 55 years ago. She was a girl from what we call, where I come from, she was a girl from the sticks, from out in the countryside. She couldn't add up and she couldn't spell. She went on to create a business which was quite spectacular. It's a little story. You might remember that one. You might remember the story that I told you about my business activities. You might remember the story about Hyatt Denim. But I wonder if you were listening to the radio on the way in today, or if you watched the television this morning, how many adverts did you see? Do you remember any of them? Because they weren't telling you a story. They weren't engaging with you. They were telling you stuff rather than engaging with you. So you've got to think about your story. So when you go home tonight, start writing your story out. See what it says. See where you can pick up on those emotive aspects that matter to the audience, to that tribe. Because once you've created the passion, the interest, and the emotion, price doesn't come into it anymore. Competitors haven't got a chance because they haven't built that emotive connection. It's interesting, again, coming back to bicycles. The amount of people that I speak to about bicycles, it's the same with car brands up to a point. That once you buy one car brand and you're happy with it and you share an emotion with it, you tend to buy more. Now, okay, we might start talking about car brands at the really high end, but the amount of people that I know that have bought Porsches and then bought another one, once that one's, and then bought another one was, why didn't you buy a BMW? Why would I want to buy a BMW? Porsches are brilliant. They're so well put together. They have this emotional connection. People who buy giant bikes tend to always buy a giant bike. There are lots of other bikes. Yeah, but I like my giant. Buy a Merida. Yeah, but, yeah, okay. Because they're 120s. Anybody from Merida in the room? I'd like to change from riding competitively giant to riding Merida if you give me a bike. No, okay. Okay. It is, though, from storytelling to story doing, because the next stage of this is, once you've created the story, you have to allow other people in to create the story around what you've created. So you bring people in and you say, hey, this is our story. What do you think we're doing? We've got to be brave. What do you think we're doing well? What do you think we're not doing so well? So all those social media platforms really come into their own at that point. There's a concept called transmedia storytelling that you need to go take a look at if you can. It's online. There's lots of stuff out there. And this is about where we join up various platforms which will allow us to tell a story, allows us to get our communication over, but it allows the audience to also contribute to that story. I bought a Giant. I now race Giants. It's the best bike in the world. I can join that story. I can develop that. Advocacy. Authentic voice. That type of stuff. Okay, I've got to get on to my 5th slide. Customer experience was fairly linear and predictable a few years ago. It no longer is because we have disruption. We have somewhere. See, I'm so slow that it stopped working now. There we go. We have this stuff. The internet, search engine, all that stuff. You know that. Disruption is everywhere. It's always been there. The thing is now that it's getting faster. It's getting faster. It's just speeding up. So how can we use creativity, the media, and data to help us out? Well, this is how it looks. That's our hardcore member, that's our tribe in the middle. We've got media data, relevant message. We have to be really smart about what we know about our tribe. So that's the data piece. Don't tell me how many people buy a product. Tell me why they're buying a product. Tell me what they're using that product for. Tell me how they're taking our product and doing something mad with it that we didn't think they were going to do. Media. What kind of media are we using? Just sending stuff out doesn't work anymore. Okay. Relevant message. It's got to be authentic. That's how we used to do stuff. Well, we still do. Many companies do. They manage metrics and disciplines. Tomorrow it's going to look like this. It's going to be about customer experiences, and that marketing experience cloud sits underneath everything. Because customers really don't exist anymore. It's the people that we want to do business with exist. So, you need to talk about marketing. Marketing does not belong to IT. In many companies, unfortunately, IT has stolen marketing from us. Take it back. We need to be creative. UX matters. UX, user experience. What do our users think about our product, our service? What's their experience of it? What could we learn from it? The story messenger matters. I can tell a lot of stuff to you, but you won't believe it, but you might believe it off another customer. That authentic voice. Use those social media platforms to create that. Digital is not a strategy. It's part of a strategy. It's part of a strategy of building a business, building a brand, but it's not the strategy. And don't let the IT department tell you it is. And creativity really, really matters. Thinking outside the box, being brave, doing things different matter. Just look at the world around us. Who would have thought Sony would have been toppled by some geek from California with a computer company? Think about Airbnb, think about Uber, think about those kind of companies. So that's the end of me for the moment, but hopefully it's just the beginning for you. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Deacon. 好，那接下来呢，我们进行我们的这个提问时间。那刚才呢，透过这个线上提问的收集呢，我们想要先请问Professor Deacon. So the question for you, Professor Deacon, is according to your talk, everyone belongs to different tribes. Then, when doing marketing, how should we influence certain tribes to stick to our brands?
Am I on? Yeah. Okay, so this is about understanding that tribe. Number one, you have to understand the tribe. You have to understand who are the key players, who are the hardcore members in that tribe. Look at what happened to Harley-Davidson in the 1970s. They nearly went out of business because Japanese brands were taking the business from them. But they understood there was a hardcore following, a passionate following for their bikes. And they used that group to communicate the brand values and the passion to other motorcyclists who were previously buying Japanese bikes. And they created a thing called the Harley-Davidson Owners Group, and that went on to be Harley-Davidson's key promotional tool. Other riders telling other riders how good Harley-Davidson is. So it's about understanding who that core membership is. And to be honest, you probably know that already, because they're going to be the people that are already doing good business with you. You know the Pareto 80-20 rule? 20% of the customers bring you 80% of your turnover or your profit. Go take a look at those 20%. Get them into a room. Buy them a donut and a cup of coffee. What could we learn from them? What will they tell us about our brand? Be brave.
Thank you. So another question is, media is the main source of collecting data or tribal members' response. But what if there's some kind of distortion in the representation on media? Do we have any principles when approaching the so-called true response, while it may not be?
It's a great question, and I don't want to belittle it in any way. But Ernst Dichter had the answer to this. Now, you know Dichter because he invented the dictaphone, a little tape recorder that we would use in focus groups. And what he once said was, if I get 12 people in a room, I can tell you what the rest of the country is thinking. And he could do that because data is information. Where do we get the richest information from? We get the richest information from sitting down and talking one-to-one or one to just a few people and feeding back from that. I can do Google metrics. We could look at all the metrics under the sun. It doesn't tell us what's going on inside the head of somebody. It tells us metrically what's going on, but it doesn't tell us about the passion. It doesn't tell us about what they really feel. It doesn't give them an opportunity to talk to me either. So if I was you, I'd get a handful of my customers on a regular basis into a room and just start chatting to them face to face. Look them in the eye. And we all know, don't we, about communication, that the majority of communication isn't verbal. It's our body language, it's what we're doing. How about observation? My PhD students hate me because I send them out to observe people doing things. Going to shopping centres, watching people. Why are they going to that store and not that store? What's the flow of people? Why are they using this product and not that product? What happens when you go into Apple? Apple Store here, it's the same as the Apple Store in my home city of Cardiff in Wales. Exactly the same. It's laid out exactly the same. And the reason for that is I've worked out, because I've observed people shopping in Apple, is that Apple tribe can't think for themselves. They need a little map to go around the store like that. So they have to be the same in every town. I'm only joking. It clearly appeals to that marketplace, doesn't it?
Thank you. So, and the last question for Professor Deacon is, what is your opinion on the marking of KOL, the so-called key opinion leader, like blogger or YouTuber?
I think if we were talking a few years back, I would have had a very different opinion than I now have. We've got to be careful that we don't confuse the opinion leader with the tribal member. And what's happened with bloggers particularly is that bloggers have become somewhat tainted by the companies that they are blogging for, in effect. The product placement bloggers in particular. What I want to do is I want to read about a blogger that's giving everything a fair try and a fair chance. Now we can influence that. We can say to people, would you like to have a go on our product and just write something about it? But the minute we start saying, would you like a big box of our product? Would you like to come on a holiday? Would you like to have this for free? We start to influence that person in a way that the rest of the tribe will find inauthentic. It's a bit like the blogger says, this is a great product, this is a great service. And all the other people, the readers of that blog will look at it and say, well, you would say that, wouldn't you? Because you're getting it for free. It's the same, we're back to, in effect, a de facto company statement. What I want to do is read something which is authentic. I want to read a blog that tells me that this product is good up to this point, or it's really good because, or if you turn it upside down and inside out, it'll do this other stuff that you didn't know it would do. That's authentic. More authentic if they've paid for it with their own money, of course. So we have to be careful with those key opinion leaders in the blogosphere. There's a place for blogging. Think about transmedia. It fits in a landscape of ways that we can communicate and that we can listen, because communication is two-way. I've gone on for far too long, haven't I now?
Oh, yeah, but one more question. And
You said the last one was the last one.
Because I think many people will really want to know the answer of this one. It is, if we focus on the B2B, the clients do not care about our story, but only the price. What's your suggestion?
They're very interested in your story. They might not be interested in the same way that a B2C will be interested in your story, but they'll be interested in your story because you will be able to tell a story about how good your research and development is. You'll be able to tell them about how you're creating value within that process that nobody else can offer. And Stephen's going to tell us about that in a short while, I'm sure. They'll be interested to know your story about how long you've been in operation, what your environmental approach is, why it's not just something that we've tagged on. We got a CSR. Have you really? Yeah, no, we've got a CSR because we support X. We do Y. Everything in our canteen is recycled. Whatever it might be, that's the kind of stories they want to listen to. So there's a story there that they want to listen to. And again, it doesn't come down to price. It comes down to adding value. All those things added up will be valuable to the end user, even if they are B2B, because increasingly we have to have traceability across everything that we do. So the end user over here, when they pick up something, a car part, when they pick up a product in a supermarket, there has to be traceability back through the supply chain. We're all the way down to here, to where you are. And if you're not providing the story that says, we have got excellent traceability across the issues around environment, wages, working conditions, safety, if we haven't got a story that pulls all those things together, this person down here won't buy the product. The world, let us not forget, is connected like never before. We've been talking about the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is the ultimate traceability tool. People will find out. You might be dealing with B2B, but somebody down that chain will be buying the end product. Somewhere they'll be buying an end product or an end service, and they'll trace it back, and if they don't like what they see, they will go somewhere else. And that traceability, that story that sits behind that, gives you added value.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Deacon, for your suggestions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.